Here at Brahma Kumaris, we practice Raj Yoga. That's our central practice. It is not Hatha Yoga, but a very subtle form of spiritual yoga. Yoga for the mind and the intellect. So, having said that, and I can see a few more souls who've come in. Welcome, special welcome to all of you once again. I would like to invite our speakers. Each speaker brings to us, a lifetime practice of the subtle skill of Raj Yoga. So let's make the most of it. Let me first call on, and as I call on the speakers, I will also read out their brief bio so that you get a perspective of who they are and what they've done before. So I'd like to first invite Dr. Tamasin Ramsay from Australia, all the way from Australia, has been Dr. Tamasin Ramsay from Australia, all the way from Australia, has been a committed practitioner of Brahma Kumaris Raj Yoga for over 4 decades. She's also an applied anthropologist and a conservationist, a former NGO representative to the United States. She has advocated internationally for animal justice and environmental policy reform. Her recently published book, about which we'll touch upon briefly today, Custodians of Purity, explores on how spiritual living can bring about lasting inner and so outer change. Welcome, Dr. Tamasin. And the next I'd like to call upon Sister Jaymini. Most of us know her. She's a dedicated Brahma Kumaris educator, speaker, meditator for over 45 years and is known for her ability to connect across cultures and professions. I personally call her a serial networker. She knows everybody. Welcome. As Director of Brahma Kumaris Publications in London and Midlands Coordinator, she inspires transformation through communication, leadership, and service. Mentored by Dadi Janki, she promotes unity through interfaith efforts like Diwali in London. Some of you would have gone to it, enjoyed it in London. Her compassionate approach and strategic insight empower individuals to realize their potential and embrace inner change with the practice of Raj Yoga as the path to fulfillment. Sister Jaymini, welcome.
Thank you, that's long.
And finally, I call upon Sister Maureen, who's the Program Director for Brahma Kumaris UK and the Brahma Kumaris representative at the United States, Vienna. A teacher of Raj Yoga.
United Nations, Vienna.
United Nations. Yeah. Did I say something else? I'm sorry.
You said United States.
You said United States.
It may be possible one day. United Nations, Vienna. I beg your pardon. A teacher of Raj Yoga for nearly 50 years, she studied the world's leading female yogis. Understanding the connection between inner and outer change, she participates in the UN conferences, environment conferences, and is a part of the strategic circle of Spirit of Humanity Forum, creating a safe space for dialogue among leaders seeking transformation based on core human values. Welcome, Sister Maureen.
Thank you so much.
That's it. We get on to learning how to be a Raj Yogi now. We've got a treasure trove of information and wealth of knowledge, and now we're going to make the most of it. Let me start first by asking Sister Maureen, what is the essence of Raj Yoga?
Thank you for the introductions and for welcoming us here. Hello to everyone. The essence of Raj Yoga. Raja means the sovereign, the king. Yoga means connection. So it's the practice that makes you the sovereign or the master of the self, the master of your thoughts, your feelings, your words, your actions. And of course, if you are living life consciously as you wish to live life, that makes quite a profound change. And to achieve that, it is the practice of meditation. First, understanding and experiencing who we really are, the inner being, the soul, the spiritual being, who is inhabiting the costume of the body, and identifying more with the inner being than the outer costume, which draws many labels to itself, whether it's gender, culture, ethnicity, etc., etc. And then Raja has another connotation too, which is the connection with the highest, with the supreme. But that first step is going inside to experience who I am and to experience my original state of peace. And not only peace, there are many treasures inside, which I'm sure we will discuss further, but that gives us a huge amount of inner strength and has a huge impact on our daily lives. So in essence, this is Raj Yoga.
It sounds very simple,
It is, actually.
but I'm sure there's a catch. I've heard many times that, all of us, of course, human beings tend to put on various masks, and deep down is the soul. So the meditation and the practice of Raj Yoga is to actually help us understand ourselves more than to tell others who we are.
Oh, absolutely, yes. When we do wear those masks, as you say, and the masks are really ways in which we interact usually to impress people or to gain a certain response from people. We all like to be loved, we all like to be praised, etc., etc. And so we tend to do things that will elicit those responses. But of course what happens is that then that makes us dependent on those. And so if I'm not receiving that praise or that regard or whatever, then I'm unhappy inside. And so certainly if I then become independent from that, it's really living from the inside out rather than living from the outside in. And so when I'm living from the inside out, it's actually my original qualities, the qualities of the inner being, that are driving me rather than the external influences driving me. And yes, those qualities: peace, love, joy, truth, and purity. And we'll hear more about purity, but when I think about purity, I say, okay, if all the influences, all the labels are left behind, I'm left in a total state of the purity of who I am.
So interesting.
Yeah.
And it is said quite often, and I've read it, and I'm sure there is a way to practice it in a very easy way. And I would want to explore that and understand that a little bit more. So I'll move on to Sister Jaymini and ask her, why is it called Easy Raj Yoga?
Sister Maureen already explained and touched upon what Raj Yoga is. So easy Raj Yoga because you don't have to force yourself to do anything, right? People think in the world that all these things, yogas, or whatever types of yoga we do, we need some sort of external force that we have to apply. Even to following of the discipline, in life, that also requires a bit of a force. And so when there is force involved, then there isn't that enthusiasm of moving forward. But this is easy because anyone, a child, an adult, an elderly person who is physically also not fit, yet still everyone can get involved and experience, because really yoga is the spiritual yoga. It's about the spirit, the soul, connecting with the Supreme Soul. And so that is, in other words, remembrance. So the soul remembering the Supreme Soul, the soul remembering the self, which is self-awareness. So it's working with the self. It doesn't require effort. I have to like myself to work on myself. I have to like myself to progress in life. So this is all very personal. And therefore it's very easy because I'm really helping myself to move forward.
So inside out, not outside in, and liking yourself is the first step. Good start.
Yes, and accepting the self. As I am, what I am, in the now.
Perfect. And I'd like to ask one question to all three sisters, starting with Dr. Tamasin, on, how are there any, Sister Jaymini outlined that it's, there is no real ritual involved. It's fairly simple. What would you outline as the recommended first 2 or 3 steps that we should take in order to get started? And better so, how was it for you? What did you do in order to start your practice?
Well, in a way, Kishore, they're 2 very different questions. What I recommend and what I did are separate, which is why I have different recommendations. So I'll start with what I did. What I did was try to be like and model, which is not altogether a bad thing, our great female elders. I just thought if I can just be like them. But of course, the real practice is to be the original me, the deepest, best me. But it took me a long time to really understand that. So what Sister Jaymini said about self-acceptance and liking ourselves, that's a very important step, a very important quality. But the first step, I think, is to begin from wherever and however you are. Because sometimes we wait for the perfect moment, the perfect day, the perfect mood, and don't wait for that because it doesn't come. Start where you are. Start again every day and keep going. Really, they're the 3 things, because every day will bring something different. There'll be good and bad of everything. Good and bad mood, good and bad stage, good and bad experiences. And actually, once you start a spiritual life, other things arise. It becomes richer and more varied. So begin where you are, begin again every day, and keep going.
Thank you. Sister Jaymini?
Yes, if Raj Yoga comes to me walking along the path, and I see that as an opportunity or a window that has opened up for me. And so it's a first step for me. As the window opens up, then I need to stop and pause and see what am I and where am I at in life. So really taking stock of who am I, what am I, and where am I at life, in this life. And so the second will be, where am I in the present? So the awareness or the first step of that self-realization really is what will bring me strength to move forward, to do something. I need that inner power, inner strength to do something. If I have physical strength, yes, that's very good. But if I lack that inner power, I cannot take even one step. And so it's not about physically taking step, it's about mentally again. And emotionally I have to be ready for it.
Yeah. So it's almost acknowledging the need for peace, maybe acknowledging the need for correction in my direction of travel, and acknowledging the need for silence and maybe reflection.
Yes.
Is what I hear so far.
Yes.
And Sister Maureen, could you add to that?
Yes, I mean, we're not reflective enough in our societies, and we tend to react very quickly. And yet, if we take that pause, our response may be very different. But when I started practicing Raj Yoga, just before that, I was already probably for about, so how old was I? 3 or 4 years at least. I was searching. I knew there was more meaning to life, and I did practice meditation and tried different things. And so it already, in a way, made that commitment to myself that I wanted to have a spiritual practice. And I think that commitment is very important. But I think it's when I met the Raj Yogis and I, felt their presence, that impressed me very much. But I think that first step of hearing these words, you are a soul. Very simple, 4 words. And, I'd read this and that about the self, and it was so complex, and, I kind of gave up on the philosophy. And then those words, you are a soul, I am a soul. And that really had a profound effect on me. And so I began to see things differently. So I think early on, it's that practice of soul consciousness, or the consciousness of being the soul, that really was very, very meaningful. And then it's a natural next step to feel that connection with God. And I always had faith from a child, and I would say my prayers every night and ask God to bless everybody I knew and everybody I could think of, and the cat and everyone, I had a lot of faith in that way, but I didn't really know how to take the strength, as Sister Jaymini said. And so this all developed in those early days, and I just thought it was great.
Yeah. I think, because we live in a world where you're bombarded with information and distractions, it's constantly, one or the other, that opportunity to actually acknowledge and think about ourselves as a soul. I would still want to understand what is the best way or the best time in the day. Is there something like that where you can sit by yourself and just focus on the fact that you're a soul, and what are the consequences of just being a soul? Dr. Tamasin?
Look, there is a magic time of the day, and the magic time of the day is the early morning. However, I come from a background where I worked as an actor. My parents were both actors in the theatre, working until late at night. So then early in the morning is not practical. I also spent 7 years as a paramedic doing shift work. It's also not practical. It's not always practical in our lives, depending what life we have, to get up early in the morning before dawn. It is great if you can do it. And the main thing is consistency. If we can find a time that works for us and just do that every day, that gives a lot of power. Whatever time suits you. So when I was a paramedic doing night shift, I would work from 4 4 p.m. till 7 a.m. Is that right? 7 p.m. I can't remember now. 7 so long ago. Anyway, I worked very long hours, 10 hours and then 14 hours. 14-hour night shifts is what I remember. And so before I went to work, I would have meditation. I would do my shift. I would come back at 7 a.m. In the morning, my shift would finish. I would have half an hour meditation and go to bed. So in an ideal situation, it's great to have pre-dawn meditation. It's the quietest time, the atmosphere is good, it's before our day begins. But the most important thing, I think, especially, well, I was going to say in the beginning, but actually any time, is finding a time that works for you, for your life, for your responsibilities, finding a time that you can commit to your own self-reflection, meditation every day and be consistent, because that gives a lot of power and a lot of self-respect.
Yeah, I like that, Tamasin. Very practical. I mean, everybody is in a different situation, but really the time that has been mapped out traditionally, even on the path of devotion, they say Amrit Vela, which is a time of nectar. And so this is the time, like 4 a.m. is actually the time when yet the world hasn't woken up around you, right? But 5 o'clock, yes, people have woken up, many of people. And there are all sorts of noises around. But you see, 4 o'clock is a very sacred time, and it's a blessed time more than anything. And it's very natural. So if I make time to sit in that hour, that's what is going to help me. Because sometimes I myself am not able to meditate. But if I sit in silence, just giving that space to myself and knowing that this is an important hour, then automatically you'll discover that how your mind will become so calm, and you'll begin to focus and connect your intellect, your mind, your thoughts with the Supreme. That's the main thing. It's a connection that we have to establish. And that connection, to establish that connection, I need to have that silent spaces. If there are external noises, it will disturb, it will distract me. But yeah, you have to choose the right, like as Tamasin just said.
I think what we can do now as a experiment is try and have one of those yoga moments, as we call it, and I would request Dr. Tamasin to lead us through one of those so we can all experience what is it that whatever we've been talking about can be summarized in those few minutes of silence and yoga. So,
sure. Okay, so we'll begin by just settling the body, and it's good to sit as upright and comfortable as possible, and to recognize this is a noble activity. Sitting in awareness of who I am. And I just give thanks to my body for supporting my life. The breath for giving me the experience of life. And then I have the thought, this deep thought, I am a soul. I, a silent, sparkling, luminous point of light. Silently gracing the center of my forehead. And I am not just a soul, but I am one unique, singular, and valuable among all souls. Each and every soul completely unique. A silent, eternal being. Om Shanti. My form is a point. My eternal quality is peace. Om Shanti. And then I bring my consciousness back to my temple body and I give thanks. I, the soul, in this temple body. Om Shanti.
Thank you, sister. I think the power of collective silence is amazing. And I think the construct of who we are really, it's so difficult to think about it when we get on with our day-to-day lives, conflicts or with some kind of aspirational, choices that we make. So I think this is a good way to ground yourself. I hope all of you enjoyed it. We'll have 2 more of this. And I think when Sister Jaymini said 4 a.m. In the morning, I went back to easy. But I believe what she meant to say was that's the ideal, but we can start with the time that suits us and then slowly move towards the ideal.
Yes.
Because I remember when I started, I think it was very difficult to sit straight at that time, but slowly we get there.
I remember when I heard about 4 a.m., I said, these people are mad getting up in the middle of the night. And then a few weeks later, there I was.
Yeah, and then I found that the body automatically gets up. You set an alarm at 4 a.m., but you're up at 3:45, and that's beautiful.
Especially if it's a loud alarm, then you really get up automatically.
Exactly. So the first part of the conversation was really inside out, not outside in. Perfect, don't wait for the perfect timing. Now is the perfect timing. And the fact that you're a soul, and, you need to establish that connection with the divine. You see, that is the thing of the divine. The soul, I understand. I mean, I think most of us have heard about it. It's common practice. You hear growing up about the soul, but the connection with the divine is something that most of us are told that to be fearful of the divine, and here we're talking about connection with the divine. So, Sister Maureen, can you help us understand how to become friends?
But just first, the thing about, we hear about the soul. Usually what happens, people say, my soul. And I think that, just wanted to pick up on that, because if you say my soul, it's actually not right. Then who am I? I, the soul, and my body. So that's, I think, very important distinction. But in terms of the connection with God, it's first a question of understanding that I, the soul, am spiritual energy, different to the energy of matter of this body. And God is the supreme of all souls, the one soul who does not come into any form of limitation. We all come into many forms of limitation, as we all know.
Absolutely.
And negativity, etc. God is an eternally loving and benevolent being. And so there's an energy that then pulls us to itself. But I have to be in that state of soul awareness or soul consciousness to be able to experience that connection. It's a little bit like tuning in your radio receiver to the right wavelength. And if you're a little bit off, you don't get the station that you want. But if I'm really in that state of soul consciousness, to take that next step is actually very easy. And then when I begin to feel that energy of the Supreme, then I feel the benevolence of that energy and the love of that energy, and that makes me feel safe, not fearful. I say, okay, I'm safe here. And then there's the feeling, well, yes, this energy is my friend, is my protector, is my comforter, and my healer. And so then it's, although the Supreme Soul is the Supreme, but the wonder of it is that the connection feels very personal, because there's the feeling that that being actually knows me as I am, but doesn't see me in my imperfect form, but actually sees me in my original form. And then my consciousness is uplifted because of that. And so it's a very, once we begin to make the connection, it's actually very natural. So step by step. Yeah.
I think I can relate to that, because that's why most of the radio telescopes are kept in a place where there's very little noise and little disturbance.
Yeah.
So I think we need to get our mind to have that kind of clarity and stillness, and then you experience magic.
A lot of, yes, for sure, definitely. But also the magic is that doing this in the midst of physical noise and turmoil, because actually that's when often you need it the most.
Yeah.
So to make the practice that strong. Thank you.
And I'd like to, on this topic, also shift a little bit towards science and research, which Dr. Tamasin has done from her book recently released, Custodians of Purity. And with your permission, I'll just read one quote from that. It's actually Viktor Frankl's. Viktor Frankl was a leading, I think he was a neurologist and out of Austria, based out of Austria, and he was also a psychiatrist.
Yes.
He was based out of Austria. And he says, his third tenet says that he suggests that one can tolerate suffering and failure if there is meaning in either. But if one finds no meaning, one will be led to despair. Therefore, in traumatic and difficult circumstances, searching for meaning offers a path through the situation so that one does not get stuck in momentary suffering. Would you be kind enough to just give us a context of that in our day-to-day life, and how meditation or yoga moments like this helps us?
Well, I'm thinking of something where there's difficulty and suffering. Like if we can imagine, and I think we can all imagine, if you're in the middle of the ocean and the waves are picking up and it's cold and you're just there. It's quite a desperate situation. You don't know what's going to happen. You're cold. The waves are coming. There's no reason to be there. There's no meaning in being there. You could very easily get distressed. But if we're in the ocean and it's cold and the waves are coming, and over there on an island is our child, or there's a boat, or there's something to go towards, someone to rescue, then suddenly it changes everything. The waves become a way to push you forward. The cold, it doesn't matter, because this meaning is driving you to go to your loved one, to rescue. If you think about, actually, we put ourselves through a lot of hardship to do a degree, to have a baby, for many things, but these things have meaning in our lives. And Viktor Frankl, that Man's Search for Meaning, it's an extraordinary book, because he was in a concentration camp, which is an extraordinary, that humanity does that to humanity. But he was there, and he said it's a place where all human rights are removed. And he saw the one right that can never be taken away is my right to respond to any situation with my best self. So in these situations he found extraordinary grace. He found incredible meaning because he found meaning in the suffering. He decided to respond with grace, with patience, with compassion, with faith, and this gave him meaning. And he found actually that other people in those places, when they had no meaning, most of them did not survive. But those who found meaning survived. And there was one experience, he said, he was in the cold, he was in a work labour camp, extremely difficult conditions, you can imagine, Auschwitz, and he suddenly saw the face of his wife, and he felt bliss because he saw his beloved. And he notes that in the book as a key, that it's possible under extraordinary circumstances to feel bliss when you see your beloved. And thinking about what Sister Maureen said about this intimate, warm connection with the divine. Yes, that one is supreme, but that one belongs to us and makes us belong to them. And that gives incredible meaning in life, and it's a reference point to always respond with grace, respond with my best self, bring my best self to any situation, because it's the one thing I can do. I can't control the world out there, people, places, events, but I can respond according to my best soul self.
Yeah, that's wonderful. In fact, it's so powerful. It's a bit like what Nelson Mandela went through.
Yeah,
I'm
indeed.
the captain of my ship and master of my soul. One of those comments, I must go and look it up again, but that is similar conditions. Or maybe even Auschwitz, of course, was worse, but he was also held in solitary confinement. And yeah, thank you, Dr. Thamson. And
I just have to say, it just makes me think of the transformative power of love.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And that is so important.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I just want to share one thing about the relationship of the soul with God. It's something that I had come across about a few weeks ago, and that is a child, and his father was the head of the state,
Yeah.
and he's waiting at home with the mother, waiting for the father to come home. And so when the father came home, of course, he was full of all the stuff that he had been throughout the day, that he had to resolve. The child ran to the father and said, "Papa, Daddy," and it took him a while to come back to that call of the child, because his mind was so engrossed in the things that he was dealing with for the country that he couldn't actually pick up the child and embrace the child and give the child that feeling, "I'm your dad." You see? Yeah. So this is how it is. Sometimes it's the child who doesn't see the distance between the father and himself, but at times, I think the other way around, the child, for him, it is just the father who is everything. Yeah. And it's dead. It's not the president or the prime minister of the country. Yeah. And so that distance doesn't remain when there is that experience. And so when the soul gets the experience, like the beloved, you see that one is my beloved. Instantly there's connection. So I think within the soul, each one of us, there are emotional side of the soul that tells the soul, this is your father, or this is your, this supreme soul is your everything. That experience that comes with a great, I would say, search. It doesn't just come like that.
Yeah, I agree.
You have to wait for those moments in life.
I can relate to that because, all through my life, I tell you, I kid you not, for 28 years when I lived in Bombay, every place I lived in just outside was Brahmakumaris. Just outside, next building. And I used to see these wonderful people who are peaceful walking along, but I never ever stepped inside. I had to be put into a cold country, a grey.
It's been hot today.
There and the situations which I was going through, of course, I was seeking something, and I think it was the day I can never forget that I started the journey. But yes, I think but I've never gone through something as difficult. God forbid, but yeah. So adversity, I think there are two types of reaction, which is what we hear from the sisters. One is, you can easily let go, like in the case of Viktor Frankl's other fellow colleagues who were there in that area, and or fight with your internal power. And I would like to just really understand, because I'm sure all three sisters are very busy. I mean, it's from your bios, you're extremely busy.
Relaxed.
And you're telling, and 4 a.m. up until this time, it's quite, what does your typical day look like, and how do you weave your yoga practice around your work? Or how do you weave your work around your yoga practice? Sister Maureen?
Start?
Yeah.
Okay, so just one simple thing is that we have a practice during the day, of course, the meditation in the morning, because however you start the day, whatever is the train of your mind at the beginning of the day, it tends to continue in that way. So, of course, if you suddenly get up, grab a cup of coffee, run out, go to work, you're running after your mind the whole day. And then again in the evening, to be able to wrap up the day and just sit quietly with the self and with God. And, it's not about then saying what went wrong, what went right, but I like the question to myself, well, what did I learn today? And then that gives me a learning and an encouragement to move forward. But then during the day we have what we call traffic control. So every hour in the house here, wherever we have centres, there will be music played and we all stop for a minute or two. And so whatever you're doing, you stop. And then it just brings you back to yourself. But yes, I think for all of us, if I think about a typical day, it's hard to think of a typical day because every day tends to be different. But it will be a mixture of, meetings, helping people with their spiritual journey. It'll be admin, it'll be lots of emails, and so on and so forth, and quite a lot of meetings for different reasons. And sometimes, just the whole day goes, and so the practice of traffic control is really, really helpful. And so ideally, it's from the practice into the work. Sometimes it does become the other way around, I have to admit, but the practice first. And, it's like thinking about what is the influence that I'm bringing into the work. And so I really like this analogy that, life is like an ocean and we are the boats navigating, and it's very important that the boat is in the water, but the water shouldn't come in the boat.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to keep that awareness and consciousness of who you are through whatever you're doing. Otherwise, if you lose that, you can then easily become overwhelmed. And so, yes, I find that practice and awareness extremely helpful. And I used to see with our elder sisters, I would think, how do they do so many things in a day, And I understood that it was because they didn't waste their thoughts that they then didn't waste their time. And so something happens, or you've done something, too often our thoughts linger in that.
Yeah.
But if you say, that scene's done, be present in the next scene, you don't waste your energy. And so there are these aspects to practice that are very, very practical for us, because no two experiences or no two moments are the same, so let me be fully present. Yeah.
That's brilliant, sister.
Yeah.
Sister
Yeah,
Jane?
for me, I think I'll say something different to what Sister Maureen just said, that for me, my 4 o'clock meditation actually is it's the compass, and it gives me a very good guidance of how my day is going to turn out to be, because the state of mind that I create at that moment, the consciousness, that's the consciousness that I would carry throughout the day. And if I haven't had that meditation at 4 o'clock, then definitely throughout the day I find that I'm in a way lost. So the moments that we have traffic control, every hour on the hour, 1 minute, I think that helps. But at the same time, whilst being engaged in karma, I pay attention to making sure that I'm constantly getting myself in touch with the awareness of the soul, that is soul consciousness. So whatever I do, am I in that right frame of mind, in every interaction, before I even interact, what is my state of mind? The consciousness with which I'm doing, I'm very aware of it. But spiritually, when you become aware of yourself, then every thought, every word, every action actually has a big impact. An impact on others, but also more so, it will be an impression that it will leave on you. If I haven't spoken the right words with the right state of mind, it gets back to you. And so I have to sort it out. So this is something that I find constantly I'm engaging myself with self-corrections and putting myself right. I like that. Whilst being in it, because it's never perfect, So it's nice to constantly move things in the self until you get it right.
Experimenting with the self.
Yeah.
So how I integrate, this yogi schedule with the life. I do have to say, 4 o'clock is a magic time. There's no way. It is. It's a great time that can sustain you through the day. But my life is quite varied. So at one point I was looking after my parents, and my father had delirium, and he was up all night. So I didn't really have my practice was centred around my father's delirium for 6 months. Like, that was just the way it was. And so in that sense, in that situation, then these moments of traffic control, you kind of use what you have, because not every day is the same. And I try as much as I can to maintain that routine, not because it's a discipline so much as it benefits me. Like, it really benefits me. The structure we have, it's for my own, it's an act of self-love, actually. But, then I look after wildlife, and sometimes we have rescues in the middle of the night and things like that. So at those times, I don't get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, because I'm out rescuing animals sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning. But then I've kind of incorporated that. I'll make that my Amrit Vela, in a way. If I'm out doing something like that, I bring the connection with God into that, and I make that one my companion in what I'm doing. And this has actually grown my intimacy with that wonderful one. I don't like to use the term he, because because God is beyond all these descriptors, and I know we use that, but I really try not to use that, because God is beyond all these labels. That one is the one for all of us. Sustainer. Yeah.
Or giver.
Beautiful. I think we would like to experience the connection with the divine as well, and even though for a fraction of a second, or be in that environment in the ambience. So, Sister Jaymini, could you please lead us through a short meditation?
Yes. Okay, sit comfortably and rest your eyes. Is there a point of light or something? Try open eye meditation, because Raj Yoga meditation is an open eye meditation. Simply because you integrate your connection with the divine in your daily activities. You can't drive with closed eyes. You can't eat with your closed eyes, right? Similarly, any actions that I do, whether I'm speaking or I'm performing or I'm walking, I have to have my eyes open, and therefore it's a good practice. So let us turn our attention inwards. Within this body of flesh and bones resides a beautiful, radiant star, radiating the light of love. I, the soul, I am like a star, located behind the two eyes in the center of the forehead. I begin to feel the deep sense of love that's there within me. I am love. I, the soul, the radiant star, am embodiment of love. It's this energy of love which is the purest, unconditional energy that lies dormant within my being. I realize that I am a being of love. And now, with this awareness of love, which is so deep, I'm able to touch base and once again accept myself with true heart as I am, and recognize the potential that I, the soul, have. And this is connected with the Supreme amongst all souls, the Supreme Parent of the soul, far away, beyond the sun, the moon, and the stars, resides that purest, non-judgmental, loving energy. As I recognize my eternal connection and relationship with that energy, purest and highest energy in this universe. It is accessible to each and every soul in this universe. And so now I begin to bask under the beautiful fountain of love coming from the source of love. I'm filling myself with this love, with the energy of love. It is purifying me, bringing my soul closer and closer to this highest source in this universe. There is no distance between I, the soul, who is the embodiment of love, and the Supreme, the Divine, who is there for me. I simply have to turn my attention upwards and absorb that love. It's this love that removes all the pains and hurts I may have in my soul. It is all healed. It's gone. I'm free from this pain. I'm empowered. So once again I reconnect my consciousness with this physical body and world, fully charged, feeling happy, joyful, and loveful, ready to share with everyone around me. Om Shanti.
Thank you, sister. I think we're almost close to time, but I just wanted to ask maybe one or two questions before we. I think we've already talked about a lot of it during our time together, but again, just focusing on a little bit around the benefits of this practice. And, we did talk about the traffic control. We talked about, the morning yoga moments. We spoke about performing work in the consciousness of being a soul. Is there a way for us to measure progress? I'd like to ask Sister Jaymini first, and then Sister Maureen, and then Tamasin, and then we can conclude and go to the next phase of the evening.
Thank you. As you see that as we develop our deeper and deeper connection with the Self and the Supreme, the Divine, this is Raj Yoga, it actually energizes and empowers the soul. So the progress that every day, definitely being a Raj Yoga student, I should be keeping a diary or a timetable where I can see whether I'm progressing or not It's very important. And so many things in life, used to upset me before. It means that little things would bring some sort of instability in my mind, or, little bit of anxiety. I see now that I'm at ease with everything. I'm very stable. I'm very concise and very responsive rather than reacting. So I think day by day, as Sister Maureen mentioned earlier, Raj Yoga is about self-sovereignty. It's about ruler of the self, becoming the self-ruler. So there's more and more control over the senses, whether it's physical senses or it's a subtle senses, that is mind, intellect, and my own sanskar. So there's more control, more discipline over this. And there are many, tips for seeing how much am I progressing. There's a whole timetable for it.
That's one way. Because we do keep timetables for work. We do have a calendar. We should just add that. Sister Tamasin?
For me, the sign of the benefit is my self-respect. I have to say, above and beyond everything else. That's my signpost. Because, for many years I really struggled with self-respect. And I didn't speak very nicely to myself. I would never speak to any of my sisters, any of you, a stranger, the way I used to speak to myself. But I've learned, and the measure for me is this, the ability for the heart to slowly open, to give the shame, not to hide the shame, to give this feeling of shame, which I felt because I just wasn't perfect. I didn't want to give this to God. I wanted to be better. But I just learned to open myself to God's love, and this is the practice. It's why we do it. And then that really heals. And then, everything changes. You don't have to make individual effort. It's automatic. When God's love comes in to the soul, then that does the work, that does the magic, and suddenly I find myself, not suddenly at all, but 40 years later, the soul, like the soul. I love the soul. I love who I am beyond Tamasin and beyond, and that's the work of God's love restoring. So to me, that's the great measure, really.
Thank you, sister.
Can I just add something?
Sure.
And so, Tamasin, as you said that, I feel that I've known you for many, many years, and I see that since I saw you this morning, after some time, I just feel that love is kind of oozing from me to the soul. And you could see that because she has accepted and she has begun to experience that love for the self. And so when I have met you this morning, there was automatically this whole oozing of love towards you.
Oozing. That's the aim of Raj Yoga, to ooze.
So that's so true. So everything is so obvious.
Thank you. And Sister Maureen?
Thank you. I think a lot has been said, and you talk about self-respect, and I really love that term, dignity, self-dignity. And I always feel that this is the most precious thing. Can I keep my self-dignity in every situation, every challenge that comes to me? But of course, the benefits of meditation are far-reaching. So one is health. If your mind is balanced, in a state of peace, then the body is also going to be in a better state of equilibrium and homeostasis, so everything works better. And for that, of course, it leads me to healthier choices for my diet and my lifestyle and so on. So it really gives that power of choice back into our hands. I think the other aspect is relationships. So relationships, normally in relationships there's a lot of give and take. And usually there's more taking than giving. And with the practice of Raj Yoga, it very much becomes more of giving than taking. So I'm not looking in my relationships for something. I want your love, I want your regard, or, I'm not putting obligations on you to be in a certain way or live in a certain way. But I'm actually valuing the other person for who they are. And then that makes relationships much more harmonious, because each one can then grow and be, who they are in a relationship. So I find that's another very powerful benefit. And then, of course, as is being shared, on that personal level, the more that relationship with the divine deepens, there is a lot of healing that takes place from things of the past, of negative patterns of thinking, and just that love for the self definitely develops. And then it's very natural that you want to share, and so people then respond to you differently. But if there's a difficult situation, it's not then about how can I prove myself or, put myself in a good light. It's about, now what can I do to uplift this situation? What can I do to help? What can I contribute positively? So, you can't measure these things in terms of test tube and a quantity, but it's very subjective in our experience on all these different levels. And I guess we could all keep talking about benefits all night, really. And you, Kishore, too.
But we don't have that much time left. But one thing which I can summarize is when all three sisters almost said, moving away from seeking, going towards self-sovereignty, self-healing, self-love, focusing more and giving more attention towards the soul. So a lot of learnings today. Thank you, sisters. And why don't we conclude the evening with a meditation, to mark the International Day of Yoga, with a meditation on the environment and peace and heal the planet.
Absolutely, because actually there's such a deep connection between our consciousness and the state of humanity and the state of the earth. And if we look at what's happening in the world, then we know there's a lot we still have to put right.
Correct.
In our consciousness. So again, be comfortable, feet on the floor, and just prepare for that inner journey. Gently, I bring all my awareness to the center of my forehead. To the sparkling star of light. That is the self. I, the soul. The being of light. In my original state of peace. That deep peace that cannot be disturbed by anything external. I am a being of peace. And in the state of peace, I lift my consciousness beyond. Beyond this physical dimension, to a place of stillness, a place of peace. Where I connect with the divine, the Supreme Soul, the light. And it's as if I enter a vastness of love, an ocean of peace. And I'm lost in that experience. The energy of God's love fills the soul, comforting me, healing me, preparing me to serve. And with a conscious thought, I allow the love to radiate out. Divine love radiates into the atmosphere. Into the city, the country, and the world. To every human heart, to every living being on this planet, and to the very elements of nature. The world is surrounded by this divine love. And this is an act of restoring the world to its original state of peace. And this is the act of creating again a flourishing world. gradually I return to the awareness of my body, my surroundings, bringing the love and the peace of the divine into every thought, every word, every action. Om Shanti.
Thank you, sister. There are just a few announcements before we end the evening, and as is tradition in the house, there will be distribution of toli, which will also be, it's a small sweet if you've not had it before. It's very tasty, very energizing, it's very powerful. Made with a lot of love.
And healthy ingredients.
And healthy ingredients. It's very powerful. So, thank you very much to all the panel members. Dr. Tamasin, all the way from Australia, thank you for joining us this evening. Sister Jaymini, thank you as always. We enjoyed your company in the panel as well. And Sister Maureen, thank you so much for joining us this evening and giving us your time. And in case you're interested to follow us further and pursue this more, I hope you do. We have activities for the whole community. It's not only, as Sister Jaymini or one of the sisters said, it's not only for adults, it's for young adults, it's for men, it's for women of various languages. Follow us on the activities. For more info at www.globalcorporationhouse.org. There is a Raj Yoga course starting in the beginning of July. If you're interested, the details are there in the website. I think it should be in the events page, courses page. Sorry, the courses page. There's also a bookshop which will be open downstairs as you exit the house, and there are some wonderful books available. One of them is God's Healing Power by B.K. Jayanti, Sister Jayanti. I'm just reading it literally by our own Sister Jayanti. This is a very, very good book. And Mike George has written a fantastic book, In the Light of Meditation, which is an extremely good book to get started. That this and many more is available downstairs. There is also a book which which Dr. Tamasin has written. It's her research paper, and it's a wonderful read. It's an academic book, but it's a good read. Custodians of Purity. That is not available downstairs. You need to order it. You can order it via Amazon, or if you directly order it via the publisher, which is Cambridge Scholars Publishing, and they're at cambridgescholars.com, and order it with promo code 25, you'll get a 25% discount as well. So this is Custodians of Purity, Dr. Tamasin. I think it's time for Tholi now. But before that, thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your evening. Have a safe journey home and see you again soon. Thank you.